This is a look at a few of the different programs that you could use to edit HTML in. First off, we're going to be looking here at Dreamweaver and show you a few of the things that Dreamweaver has that are advantageous. First off, notice that we have color coding in here for the different sections. Notice the table is in kind of this green color. Standard tags are in this blue color. We have attributes are in a little bit of a lighter blue color, and just straight information inside of table cells, for instance, is in black. So the color coding helps us to easily see exactly what's going on here and what the different parts of the code mean. Down the left hand side we have line numbers. You can see here this line number actually wraps around, so there's also wrapping as well. This is actually one line of text, but it's simply wrapping around since it doesn't fit inside of our window. Text wrap is very useful. You can see here by having the numbers, we know that this is a wrapped line. So again, having the numbers is also very useful. In this version of Dreamweaver, this is version 8, we have additional button bars down the left-hand side, which gives us more options, such as open documents, collapse full tag, collapse selection, expand all, select parent tag, etc. Now we're not going to be using these in our discussions. This is kind of an advanced Dreamweaver feature, and we're going to stay with just the hand coding over here as much as possible. Also in Dreamweaver, if I begin to type in a code such as this, I can have this set up so that it drops down a list, as you can see here, of potential things to add in this new tag. I typed in a font tag, and a few of the things that you can add into a font tag are color for your font, face, size, style, title. So these are a few options, a few choices, point size. So this little drop down list helps me as I'm writing the code just to give me some of these standard options. This isn't all of the options, it's just the most commonly used options, and most versions of Dreamweaver have this function, and we'll be using this in our discussions just again as a real quick look to see what's available as we're writing in the tags. But we'll do most of the coding again by hand. Let's just delete that. So that's Dreamweaver. Let's take a look over here. Here is one of the simplest programs you can use. This is just Notepad. It's just a straight text editor. You can write perfectly good HTML in a straight text editor such as Notepad. Now, it's important to note that when you are writing HTML code in a word processor, you don't want the word processor adding in its own coding. An example of that would be Microsoft Word. That's going to add in its own coding, and it can mess up your HTML. So you're better off not doing that. You can do HTML pages in Microsoft Word. They have a special convert to HTML or save as HTML choice, but it makes really messy HTML with all kinds of excess code. It just about doubles the size of the code that you have in your page. So my personal recommendation is to stay away from Microsoft Word as much as possible when you're trying to write good HTML code. But the more simple text editors such as Notepad here are perfectly fine for writing HTML code. Let's look though at some of the disadvantages. First off, notice we do not have any line numbers. We know that this line here is wrapping, but it's hard to tell because there's no line numbers. We also don't have any color coding. Again, the color coding is very, very useful, and we don't have that here. So there are some advantages to using a dedicated HTML text editor. Now, another program that can be used, to switch over here, is WordPad. Now, WordPad is a more advanced text editor that comes with Windows. It's kind of hidden. You have to know where to look for it. It's not going to show up in your start menu, but you can install WordPad or run WordPad, and you'll find it inside of the Windows directory. You also can find this if you look into the help section, look up WordPad, or go onto the Microsoft site, look up WordPad, you'll find instructions on how to actually launch this program. WordPad really is kind of Microsoft Word version 1. So it's about a 10-year-old program, but it's also very, very basic, very simple, and works fairly well here for writing HTML code. Again, though, you'll see a problem here. We don't have any line numbers, so we don't have that ability. And up here at the top, you notice our text is not wrapping, line is not wrapping up here. We have a scroll bar instead. We can actually see the whole line here as it would normally look in HTML, but it's not wrapping, so we can't see it just on one screen. So a couple of problems there. We also don't have, again, the color coding for the text. That's not available to you here in WordPad. Now you can use WordPad again to edit HTML just fine, and we'll be using WordPad in several of our discussions as we're just looking at some sections of code. When I'm calling out little pieces of code, I'm going to be using WordPad to call out those little pieces just for demonstration purposes. But again, we're going to be doing all of our coding inside of Dreamweaver because of some of those nice things such as the line numbers and also the color coding. Now, another program you can use, it comes with Dreamweaver frequently. It comes with the Microsoft Studio program, is called HomeSite. It's a dedicated processor, dedicated editing for HTML, but the built-in editor in Dreamweaver is basically the same thing. It's just kind of built in. Another one, you also can use other third-party or independent HTML code editors. Here's one. This one is called Edit Plus. This is a shareware program. Really good. You get like a 30-day free trial on this, and you have to pay some very small amount to actually purchase this program. And this is really nice, really advanced. You can see the features here again. We have line numbering, which is nice. We have a ruler across the top, kind of tells where the characters are, which can be useful. Notice that there's more color coding in here than there is in Dreamweaver. So you actually have a more advanced color coding here in Edit Plus. Notice that the colors are different. You can actually change your color coding in Dreamweaver to match anything else. So if you were using Edit Plus, you can make Dreamweaver look just like Edit Plus as far as the color coding goes. It's really up to you. We also have lots of additional options up here, such as bold, italic, underline, all of these things right in the proper code for you. Click on the button and it makes the proper code for you to use. We also have a directory over here. We can search for where we're looking. We can look at the different files that are available to us. Lots of advantages here in these dedicated HTML programs. So if you want to just write straight HTML, you like to work with code, you want to work with just straight HTML, you don't care about going over and using the what you see is what you get version, then get yourself a dedicated code editing program like Edit Plus. I think you'll find this will be very useful to you. Let's now go back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to close some of these, get these out of our way. We'll go back to Dreamweaver. For most people, I would recommend just using this if you're working with Dreamweaver, or if you're working with Go Live, they have a similar function. If you're working with Front Page, there's a similar function. Just use the built-in code editor. For most purposes, it's just fine. And the advantage again here is that you can switch over to your design view, see how things look in your design view, switch back to code view, and do your hand coding. So there's a look at some of the programs that can be used. There are literally hundreds of programs out there that you can use for HTML, and that's because HTML is such a basic language that it's fairly easy to create a coding program for that. So you may want to try out a few of these shareware programs or a few more advanced professional programs out there, but pretty much anything will work for you. It doesn't take a whole lot of editing power to actually edit HTML. Again, a straight text-based program such as Notepad will work just fine.